The speak up culture is purely integrated in our values. You need people who dare to walk a different way to demonstrate that it's okay. You cannot create a process that sticks for eternity. Data is key in whatever we do. The minorities can never change the world by themselves. It's the only way you can let a culture and a company grow.
Hello, my name is David Küpper, and I'm the Managing Director of Expert Powerhouse. At Expert Powerhouse, we are helping teams with on-demand consultants and experts for their projects. I'm happy to start the 8th episode of our EPH talk today. Before we get started, a small ask. In order to get notified about new insights from our team, including myself, please follow my LinkedIn account and the Expert Powerhouse page. Click the bell on the top right of my profile to get notified first about new content from myself and from EPH. Today, we will be discussing social innovation and the implications for the future of work. Social innovation refers to the development and implementation of new social solutions to social problems. They are typically aimed at improving the well-being of individuals and communities. That is a result of impact investing, which involves investing in companies and organizations that seek to generate both financial returns and positive social and environmental impact. According to the German Diversity Index 2022 for DAX 40 companies, Siemens is in the 11th position among the companies which have successfully implemented policies on inclusive working environments. Today we have with us Liza Follert, Head of Talent Acquisition EMEA at Siemens Healthineers. She started her career as a talent acquisition specialist at Abbott Laboratories. She has been working as Head of Talent Acquisition for many reputable companies for more than a decade and has been at the forefront of adopting innovative policies and measures at Siemens Healthineers. Today we are going to discuss social innovation and its implications for the future of work. It's my pleasure to welcome Liza.
Hi, David. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to the Expert Powers Talk, Liza. And for everyone listening in, if you have questions, please use the comment line to put it in there. We will have some time at the end to discuss and also come to your questions. Liza, let me cut it to the chase and ask you directly. Could you explain to us how you are anchoring social innovation in Siemens Healthineers?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, we do have a department called social innovation. I think that's the first big step of really getting this topic into attention. When I joined 8 months ago, my role was focused on Germany. Today, I'm focused on an EMEA level, but in Germany, we had invented this new team, social innovation. This includes diversity, equity, inclusion with a focus on the German term of Inklusion, work-life integration, and also the topic of corporate volunteering. And so bringing this all together into attention and not just having it on paper, on a strategy culture level, we bring this culture alive in our day-to-day with our employees. So in regards to topics their daily needs are, if it is a caretaking solution, if it is an inclusive topic, if it is bringing people with disabilities into workforce, if it is in regards to be your true self at work. All these topics come together there. And in my role as head of talent acquisition for EMEA, this is definitely very important for us to have an employee reality that we can demonstrate to our future talents, to people we want to bring in regards to a new position, young talent, entry-level roles, senior management roles, and also, of course, contingent workers. So when we have consultants from outside that decide to work with us and for us, they want to see a proof point. And so bringing this topic together in the frame of social innovation, bringing our culture alive, That's what we do. And this is why it is so important for us also in regards to recruiting activities.
That is great. I think it would also be great if you would talk a little more about the term itself, social innovation. I'm not sure if everybody in our community is aware what that means. And then also, why is it so relevant? And why should everyone really care about social innovation?
So I think the term is not a trademark. So social innovation, it came up before I joined. The aim was to focus on exactly what's going on in the social environment. So in the society with our employees. So what are the topics that really come up in certain phases of their life, of their career with us? And innovation in that sense definitely mean going a step beyond. So do not just proceed with what is existing and also not just proceed with what is demanded by local laws, but also going the next step and see where are the needs. Where are topics that arise also in society outside of our company, topics that have more attention than had been before? So for example, corporate responsibility and corporate volunteering in years and decades where a great war is happening, a big war is happening within Europe, where Russia attacked the Ukraine, people wanted to support and wanted to provide their help. And then also creating an environment, a framework where this help can happen. And not just in bigger scapes, but also in smaller scapes. So going into local initiatives and seeing that there is a demand and people come to us and say, hey, you tell us you are a company that takes responsibility. Give us a proof point, give us the showcase. Where can I participate as an individual into this contribution? And so this is how we put social innovation together. Maybe it's named and framed a little different in other companies. Other HR topics are more clear when we're talking about total rewards or recruiting itself. Most people understand what it's meant with it. Social innovation is just a new term for a topic that brings the responsibility of the company in regards to lift culture in the center.
And because you just mentioned recruiting, how do you ensure that your company's hiring practices are inclusive of all individuals, regardless of their background, their education, their like work experience?
Yeah. First answer would be you need to set the process. Process is key for recruiting. This is our day-to-day business. And in big companies, you always work with the system. So system-wise, you can create a system inclusive. Yeah, thinking about simple language, thinking about also a visual that is with contrast colors so that it's easy for someone who has issues on that point. It's not overflowing with information. So this is something we are currently working on because we are changing systems also in regards to our application tracking system. And here we talk a lot about how to create the system inclusive so that everyone has the same possibility to access the system, no matter where this person is. So second, after the system is definitely training. You need to train people. And it starts with basic training about how to run interviews, what to do, what not to do, but also in regards of talking about the unconscious bias. So in regards to diversity, you have your experience and people always say, yeah, I don't judge people. I just take decision based on what I see, what I hear, on facts. Behind, we know that unconscious biases take place every time, everywhere. I'm learning and reading and working with this topic for more than 17 years now. And I myself cannot say that I am without biases. It just happens. So you need to train, you need to become more aware. And that falls then into a next step where we really need to also create job descriptions that are inclusive. So not in regards to we do not have any expectations anymore, but in regards to the world has changed. So when we're talking about what is the best qualification someone would need to bring to the table, most of the job descriptions also in our house still start with what's your degree? We both know that you can learn over a couple of years in very different ways. So you learn on the job, you learn when you're motivated to do maybe YouTube videos, maybe you do a certificate, maybe you have other ways to gather new information. And that doesn't reflect your degree you had once in the past. I'm a sociologist. So this doesn't bring me to the position to run talent acquisition for EMEA, but 16, 17 years of experience in recruiting, working in different companies, talking to tons of people, having interview experience, seeing different systems, interacting, going to events, exchange, network, additional certificates. That is the sum of everything that defines me and my knowledge about a certain topic, and not my degree and not the grade I had back 20 years ago when I finished university. So here we need to see, where do we have inclusive factors and where do we have exclusive factors? And when we start this dialogue with our hiring managers, with the managers who are in charge to decide, we definitely challenge this. Next bias to come in, number of years of experience. So here, is someone doing the job for 10 years? Yeah, that is one indicator, maybe, but it doesn't say, has the person done a great job for 10 years or has the person done a poor job for 10 years? So here again, age cannot be the decisive factor. And again, we create job descriptions that need to reflect the qualification and the competences, the knowledge, the background we are looking for, and not based on these biases. Someone needs to have a certain grade, someone needs to have a certain age, and someone needs to have a certain certificate to be good in that job. Yeah. So there's
That is great. You mentioned also a lot of topics, and I want to dive a bit deeper into some of them, like in a bit. But let's maybe also go back to the hiring process in terms of attracting people, attracting diverse talent. Do you have a specific strategy? How does your company do it to really attract a diverse talent and ensure that they feel welcome, they feel included in the workplace? That is also, of course, as you mentioned, true for freelancers, for independent consultants working on projects as externals.
Exactly. You need to understand your target group and you need to ask them, because who am I to step in the shoes of someone with migration background? I never had a migration background. So how do I know where this target group goes or which appealing factors they have in a job description? So data is key in whatever we do. When I started my career, I said I go in HR because I'm more focused on people. I'm not so good in data and numbers, and I do not want to have Excel charts all day long. Today, most important for me is understanding data and getting close to the data. So here, understanding your target group, going and talk to them, yeah, listen to them, and also see what the data brings. So you can always have the classical marketing traits set in. You do beta testing. You try, is this working better? Is that working better? Is this more appealing to people or is that more appealing? Of course, you have a lot of systems nowadays that also help you in regards to gender neutral language, using more words that might attract female better. So you have these technology support, you have companies who support this. And in the end, you have to find also a way for yourself. And as a big company, you have tons of people you can ask. And we hire really hundreds of people every month. And we can ask them, why did you choose us? What has been appealing? What did you like? What haven't you liked? So getting in this exchange, learn from it and adjust it. So things are never set in stone, and you cannot create a process that sticks for eternity. And that's one of the secrets for being social, innovative. You need to adjust when necessary. So whenever a new setup arises, you need to reflect it, what it makes with your people, and then you need to adjust it. And of course, this is something a lot of people do not like to adjust ongoing, but it's important in that topic.
You mentioned the unconscious bias before. How does your company really address this topic? How does your company address unconscious bias in the hiring process?
Yeah.
And what steps do you take to mitigate its impact?
So we use an unconscious bias training. So we bought in this service and really train from senior management on and everyone in the recruiting process. We started this like half a year ago. And so now it is slowly, as the company is really big, but it's going top down and everybody needs to have the training. What we have done in parallel to the unconscious bias is an awareness campaign. So we have also created an additional workshop concept we call privilege walk. You might have heard this term because privilege walk is not invented by us. It is something that I think is on the market for quite a while, but has never been in the focus as far as I know. And this privilege walk helps you to understand your own situation, so your own privileges. Because if you want to talk about biases, you need to understand which could be your biases. And I grew up in Germany. I grew up in a family where both my parents have also a university degree. We had no financial issues. It was no question if I study or not, if this is doable, if we have enough money to do. This is not the reality for many other people. So understanding the privileges you got by birth, and most of the time it is really by birth, yeah, like pure coincidence, and then realizing that this is not the reality for everyone. And then you have a chance to address also biases because you step back a little and you try to understand your own situation, and then you can reflect the situation by others.
There are studies that have shown that employees tend to oppose change initiative because they disrupt established power structures and ways of getting things done. You have to change yourself also, your attitude, your behavior, processes. You mentioned already that you try to address it with trainings and educating your employees to really promote a culture of inclusion and equity in the workplace. Can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah, we can start with Simon and say, start with the why. People need to understand why they're doing it. And going by because it's equity, because it's fair, because everyone should be treated equally. Most of the time it doesn't resonate, yeah, because it's abstract. You do not know why should I do this. Fortunately, we have the situation that in many countries we do have a lack of talent. So we have market situation and recruiting situation where it is not as easy as it has been in the past. So we create a need for this change. Yeah? So it seems to be an external need, but combining with the strategy we have and combining with the commitment we give as a company, as Siemens Healthineers, to increase inclusion, to foster diversity in our company, it really helps us. So we piggyback on the situation, so to say. We say, hey, we can help you fill your talent needs. For this, we need to think wider. We need to open our scope and we need to welcome diversity, and diversity in the sense of age, gender, ethnicity, religion, but also maybe in other ways. So targeting people and also welcoming people that might have circumstances that they are not able to work 5 days a week, 100%, one full FTE. So creating part-time and other work environments where people feel themselves welcome and seen in their needs. And then we do not need to talk about the individual needs, but really giving the opportunity and going outside saying, hey, with us, you can choose. With us, you have the choice if you do this or that. People get attracted. And then, of course, having the process that sense and that way that these people do not get selected out and do not show up in shortlist or then in the workforce. But then the training is in the background again to also train the hiring managers on how to create something. And it never stops with day one. So the time after, the reality people live in and work in the environment, that's key. So the onboarding and the ongoing activities, how you also address topics and also how you face maybe issues that arise. And we have all the experience if you are a working parent, no matter if you are the mom or the dad in that environment. If your kid is sick and you can't come to office and you can't participate in a meeting, sometimes you're facing issues and sometimes you get negative response on that. So why can't you come? Who's taking care of your child? You solve this and creating an environment where we have role model and that senior management is rescheduling an appointment with the reason saying, I can't participate because I have to take care of my kids. That is a strong signal we can give. And you need these role models. You need people who dare to walk a different way, to demonstrate that it's okay, that it's purely okay, and that we do not need to justify ourselves or find excuse or rip up an arm or a leg just to get it done, but that it is perfectly fine to have good reason and to reschedule a call because of that.
Indeed, yes. How does your company address the unique needs of individuals with disabilities in the hiring process? And what measures do you take to ensure their inclusion in the workplace as well, which can be sometimes probably challenging, I would assume?
Yeah. So let me answer this in maybe 2 or 3 approaches. So at first, of course, in some countries we do have legal situation where we need to follow a certain process to bring people with disabilities into process, or how to process people who raise that they have a disability. That's the legal way. Of course, we follow this and there's a structured approach. But how do we address it? We have 2 very nice examples I can show. One in the US. We had a project, still have a project called Hearts, and it is in regards to people with neurodiversity. So we address people with neurodiversity, and we created a different process because the normal regular process we were thinking, yeah, that fits for everyone. It hasn't fit because it was overwhelming. It was too much information. It was too much focused on the personal one-on-one. So some people prefer video interview. Some people prefer stick to the fact, do not do small talks, do not do this. We need to socialize before we take a decision. So understanding this and creating a project around this to create an environment where people with neurodiversity feel more welcome. That was one of the projects we have initiated, and that is running pretty well. So we were able to hire a group of people. We trained the managers also how to manage people with neurodiversity in the regular day-to-day. And also we discussed it with the teams. As it takes a village to grow children, it needs a team to create a culture in the company and your work environment. So everyone needs to have awareness on such a topic. A second example, just recently, last year, we initiated a cooperation in Germany with the School for Blind People in Marburg. So we have a location in Marburg. There is a school for blind people, and we created the opportunity to bring in interns into the work environment. And also, we have learned a lot. So it's always about learning. As I mentioned, it's learning and then adjust and then grow. And so we asked our colleagues, one of them, she is like a communication and marketing professional. And she said, yes, I'm happy to talk about. And I'm also happy to talk about the biases I face in day to day. So she created a little video and was talking about, yeah, so how do you feel when someone says, see you later? Yeah. And she says, yeah, a lot of people ask this and see you later. To say to a blind person, see you later, this sounds so stupid. And the seeing people think far more about this than blind people think about this. Yeah. And allowing this dialogue and talking to the people that really face it. And another initiative we have started, we gave invisible disability a face. So we have asked several colleagues to talk about their disability that is invisible. So when you pass by, when you work with them, you would never ever see that there is something in the back. If someone is in the wheelchair, if someone is blind, if someone is walking with a stick or is losing one leg or one arm, it's super visible. You immediately see, oh, there's something. If someone has long COVID, if someone has diabetes, if someone has Parkinson in an early stage, depression or anxiety or whatever. So things you would not see. People smile in your face and you could never ever guess that there is something in the back. We make this visible. And this is also something I try to bring into like every meeting and every workshop I participate in, because I do have a cancer career, so to say. I'm a cancer survivor, and nobody would ever expect this. seeing me, seeing how I'm running around in my age, nobody would assume this. And therefore, I proactively bring this into discussion to also open the dialogue and also lower biases and prejudgments.
And how do you promote this allyship for underrepresented individuals within your company? What steps are also taken to hold employees accountable for creating an inclusive and equitable workplace? Because I assume everybody needs to support this idea in the end as well to be really successful.
And that's key, as you mentioned. The minorities can never change the world by themselves. They need support by the majority. And for example, I don't know if you can see this because of the virtual background, we have stickers. I am an ally. And I have this on my laptop, on my phone. So I have written it all over that people who do not need to come out in front of me, but they know she is supporting me. She's maybe not part of the community, but she is a supporter. We have employee resource groups. So we have Women Network, we have community for people with color in the US, we have a network for LGBTI community. We are building a father network, so for men in parental situation. We also, based on the great feedback we've received, we create a network for people with disabilities to create the environment they can exchange, they can talk with each other and exchange experience and also create a stronger voice. That it's not longer one drop into the water bottle, but it's really a lot of voice and noise. And this is supported by our HR structure and our Department for DE&I and Culture. So we also have an internal group called Cultural Catalysts. So people who take this additional little job of talking about our culture, supporting the initiatives, being very visible in the community, supporting in team meetings and workshops in regards to culture and allyship. And we also had an initiative, and this is something that is frequently coming up, where we talk about what does allyship means? What does it mean to be an ally, and how can I also demonstrate to be an ally? And the speak up culture. This is something that is purely integrated in our values. We own it and we step boldly. And in that sense, we step in whenever we see something that is not in regards to our culture and beliefs in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
There are great examples of initiatives that you take. I'm really curious if you're able or if you measure the impact of your inclusive hiring practices on employee engagement, retention, and last but not least, business performance as well. Are there KPIs that you use?
Yes, we have a month employee survey. So we track really month by month. And the diversity element is one of the key. Beside the overall engagement, so it's a classical net promoter score we are evaluating against, and the diversity elements. So how welcome do I feel in the company, but also how do I observe initiatives the company is running? So it's a number of questions in regard to a diversity. So we evaluate a diversity index, so to say, a net promoter score in regards to diversity. And this is something with the highest priority. So our CHR, Darlene Karen, she is personally taking responsibility. She is watching the results. She is really also reading the comments. It is on her heart, and she's always consistently setting the message. And of course, it's not just about measurement, it's about action. Yeah. You can listen as much as you want. You can measure as much as you want. But if you do not take the feedback you receive into action, you will lose the trust of the people. So it's all about taking action after you have listened and measured.
Can you share 2 to 3 tips for executives and managers in our community to help them implement measures on social innovation? Where to start, what to prioritize, what are the mandatory steps? Is there anything you can share?
Okay. So my first tip is get your numbers. You need to have a baseline. So I think simple as this, you need to understand what's the point you're starting from. You can do a baseline measurement by asking your employees. You can do a self-assessment. I mean, there are certified communities like in Germany, I know Charta der Vielfalt. so Charter of Diversity, they provide also a self-questionnaire, and you can measure yourself. Do I have this in my company? Do I have somewhere written down a diversity statement? Do I have a go-to person? Do I have my numbers? Do I know how many male, female, diverse identified people do I have in the company? Do I offer a gender neutral restroom that people who do not want or cannot identify themselves either as the one or the other gender, we always claim by biology there are just two, but maybe some people have issues with this, and creating this is maybe just needed for a very low percentage of people, but it makes a difference. So get your numbers, know what the baseline is. The second step I would suggest is getting external help. So, of course, if you're a big company like Siemens Healthineers, you may have entire departments who deal with the topic, and you have headcount and you have your own resources you can take into this. If you're a smaller size or you haven't had the chance yet to have a department in regards of inclusive culture and diversity topics, ask external help. There are lots of great professionals who can do this analysis for you and with you, and who can give you like low hanging fruit, quick guidance, and also build a strategy with you what you want to achieve over time. And the third one is, and this is more my general statement in regards to nearly everything in life, start with the first step and take small steps. You will never run a marathon without a training. Maybe you do, but I promise you, you will die afterwards and you will lay down for weeks and you will never go on the street and try running again. So train for it. Take first steps and take small steps. And as you clearly mentioned, David, you need to take the people with you. So it will never make a fundamental change if one person, no matter if it is a CEO or a CFO or a CHRO, decides to be inclusive now and to have diversity. You need to take the people with you.
Yeah, I like it that you say just get started also. Don't be afraid of making any mistakes on the way. But every little bit helps already. As
It
Expert
does.
Powerhouse is a platform partner for freelance consultants, of course. Can you share your top 3 tips for our freelance consultants, but also for clients likewise, of what can help them to overcome any biases or prejudices that might be around? How would you say, what would you suggest to overcome these situations?
And that's probably the most difficult situation. I can rather speak to myself and share my experience because it's hard for me to say what's the best way for someone else because maybe I'm not in their shoes. Now, I've mentioned, of course, and obviously, yes, I identify as I had the opportunity to be in the 52% minority of people in a work environment. We are more, but we are not seen as equal, maybe in some ways. And also, I had my struggles as a young mother. My daughter, meanwhile, is grown up, but I was very young when I had her. So I always had to overcome these challenges. And sometimes they were in my face, and sometimes they were behind my back that I knew probably they're thinking about this, but they will never tell me. So raise voice. It is important. And I know it is difficult. It is uncomfortable to step outside your comfort zone. It's the only way you can grow and you can let a culture and a company grow. I proactively addressed things whenever I have seen something. Now, in my position now, I proactively give room and ask for advice. So, what would be something people would feel more comfortable? And so, going into that exchange, I know it's a little fuzzy because I can't give you like this 1, 2, 3, you should do this, and then everything is fine. I also had situations where I was open and outspoken, and it wasn't to my best. It happens. But then again, you can decide if you want to stay and stick in that environment. So, best maybe advice is when there is something like a survey, when there is something like a structured way of gathering feedback, use this platform. Far too many times people say, oh no, I don't need to fill the questionnaire because it doesn't change anyways. And even if I give feedback, it doesn't change anyways. Yeah, maybe, probably all of us have made the experience that we raised our voice and it hasn't changed. But if we do not speak up, we do not give anyone the chance to change something. So use the possibility to give feedback and raise your voice.
Liza, I also see already a couple of questions, and also to the audience, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'll try in the next 5 minutes to address as many as we can. Sabine Pau, great to have you here. You've asked, do you have experience and best practice sharing, how to cascade down inclusivity to all levels, not only corporate functions, also to warehouse and store, as an example, where people might not have access to a laptop and where you might face language challenges?
That's a very good question. And we do have a lot of blue collar workers. We have logistics, we have warehouse, we have shop floor, we have all this. And we have this also in multiple countries, for example, India and China, where I know colleagues face the situation that people really just come in, knock at the door, and ask for work because they do not have this Wi-Fi access at home, they do not have a laptop. In these cases, we have built up on the facilities on site, like public computers where we assist the people to put their data in. Because in the end, to create a contract nowadays, also in terms of data privacy and all the processes, unfortunately, you need to have data in the system at one point. So we will never come back to the point where we write a contract by hand and hand it over. These times are over. We provide these check-ins where also the reception desk employees are trained to support the people who come in, want to apply for something, that they get assistance, that they really get the help they need. Also in regards to language. In the blue collar sector, of course, most of the time we have local language, but it is not needed all the time. And here we also try to address and support them with translations. Sometimes you have also people in the workforce who can speak the language and can assist. Of course, there again, you have legal requirements in the countries where contracts need to be written and signed in the local language. But of course, there again, you can give some translation and some assistance in there.
That's great. We have another question from Razul, who is, first of all, thanking you very much for the valuable information, and who is asking how technology can be leveraged to promote social innovation and equality in the workspace. Or is it just on the humans, on the other employees?
That's a tricky question, Rasul, because it's always the human who configure the technology. So technology itself is without biases, but there's always someone in the background who does the software and programming and writes the protocol, right? In the end, it's always human behind the technology. But I see the point of your question. Yes, and we have this, of course, in the technology. So easy to access, also having language configurations, having the possibility to read out or transcript spoken word into written word. In big meetings, we always have human again, but sign language. So for deaf people, we support this. And also having the translation, so the text. Also, maybe something, David, we need to consider here, that our words are translated into written language, that people might have it easier to follow, because then you can also have a language translation in the system. So these things grow and help tremendously. Yeah. When I take a look how, for example, a communication tool like MS Teams, and I do not want to do any promotion, it's just a tool we are using, has evolved, and you can set the translation within the meeting so that it gets translated into your language. Is it perfect yet? No, but I clearly see that we are going that way, and that with every technology that is coming up, it helps in the process, opening the doors and being more social innovative in that sense.
And we're running over time. Thank you so much. We could continue these discussions for a couple of more hours. There's also so much questions that we didn't even address yet. It was eye-opening and very insightful. I personally learned a lot about what organizations can do to bring about more inclusivity and diversity in their workplace. I've also learned about the typical challenges that come with it and how to navigate them. Thanks for being with us, Liza. I wish you a great year and a great work with Siemens Healthineers on the topic of social innovation, of course. To anybody who joined us today, I'd like to invite you to follow our Expert Powerhouse LinkedIn page and my personal profile for the next live event and fresh insights that are released frequently. There will be many interesting speakers lined up for you, so don't miss out. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Take care and see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.